this is your account. And, like I said, Google Photos and all the Google apps change all the time. So don't be afraid to just go clicking around to find out where things are. Because most of the time, if you have done something in an app, when they make a format change like Google Photos has done, the apps, those functions are still there, but they're going to be someplace else. So don't be afraid to try that. So what we're looking at right now is this icon, which traditionally means settings, right? So if you click on settings, you'll see all the settings that Google Photos is set up for on your computer. We went through some of these on your phone. For example, making sure that you're uploading photos in high quality. So you want to make sure that's true here too, okay? And so there are other kinds of things for sharing, um, some things that aren't all that important to do, but mainly in this case, it's really looking at high quality, making sure that you're choosing high quality to get the free Google Photos account. So if I now click on settings again, that should close it. Oh, where is it? Oh, it didn't close. Okay, well, the other thing I want to get to is on the left-hand side of this column. I can also go back. Okay, so I went back to my previous page to get out of settings. Last time we went through upload, where I showed you this is one of the ways you can upload a photo from your computer. And the other thing to point out is that this question mark, this is where I was telling you, if you open it up, it'll have all the tutorials more or less of how to do something based on where you are. Oh gosh, I hit the wrong thing. Sorry. Okay, so that's for help. Okay, so going back to this side of the screen, the top one is photos, which is where we are right now. It shows all the photos that are currently in Google Photos. And this should look the same here on your computer as they are on your mobile device. So if you look at your mobile device, you'll see that you'll see the same picture if you go to Google Photos. Okay. So essentially what you want to do is go through each of these things and figure out what they do. Sharing is where all the things that you've shared with other people are there. Okay, so these are all albums that I've shared with other people. For you are some things for you to do. So in other words, this is where you could create a new album, you could create prints, you could do movies, collage, animations. These are all the things you could do with Google Photos. And they're in this new place called For You. And you'll see that you can get to each of these functions in different places as well. And here's Print Store, found here as it is in here. I'm going to skip over to albums, which is where I want to end up with. And so when you're in albums, this is where all your albums are going to show up. Okay. And let's see, utilities. This is something that changes depending on what you have. You're going to also see this on your mobile device, and it'll have some other kinds of things, other functions that most of the time I'm not really using. So I don't seem to have things in here. It could be things like auto-correcting rotation and things like that might be showing up here. If you have some photos that are Google Photos identifies them as being sidewards, it will ask you, should I rotate these correctly? And it'll show up here in utilities. Archive, Jim had mentioned this. This is where it's like another folder in Google Photos, but it doesn't, these photos that are here in archive do not show up in your Google Photos. So this is a much smaller area for me right now. And I tend to put in things that are, like I've scanned something and I don't really want that as a photo. I just want to save it someplace. I would put things here and maybe make I don't know if you can do a separate album in here. No, it looks like not. The archive is just one big folder where you put things that you don't really want to see in your photos area, or it's not necessary for you to have them in your photos area.
They will come up in a search, however.
Yeah. If you search for them, like a particular date or a particular kind of things, or sometimes even what's written on them, it'll show up in any kind of search. Thanks, Owen. And here's your trash. This is where all the things you can see. I was about to trash this one photo with my finger in it. So this is where things are going to be on. It says 60 days, but Google Photos is changing it to like 30 days. Okay, so we went through all of these icons. Just be familiar with where they are and more or less what they do so that when you need to do something, you kind of know where to look. Okay, and this handout that I've created is way too detailed. Okay, I made it just so that when we're done, you have a place to go back to and kind of remind yourself as to what to do. Okay. So I'm just going to go quickly through. We just did this. The settings are located there, and if you open it up, um, you can do several things. And these icons will change depending on what you're doing. Okay, so right now we're going to try to select some photos. If you go back to your Google Photos, if you hover your cursor around a photo, you'll see little check marks start showing up. And if you click on that photo, that check mark will stay. And this is a way for you to select multiple photos in your Google Photos to do something with them. You could either delete them all, as you can see for trash. You can share those particular ones, but I wouldn't do it at that point. But but maybe if you only have like 2 or 3 photos you want to share with somebody, this is what you would do. And I'll demo that in a minute. But plus is where you would create an album. Okay, so let me see where I am here. Okay, so let me go back. I guess I put this slide in here just to tell you that these settings here in the upper right corner will change depending on what you're about to do in your Google Photos. So this is what they call context dependent settings. So if I go back, this is what normally shows when you're in Google Photos, but as soon as you start doing something with your photos, this area will change to give you some other options that are relevant to what you're doing in Google Photos. Okay, is that clear to everybody? Just try it. That's the best way to do it. Just try it. Yeah, so these are some other items in Google Photos on a computer that I just went through. And so now we're going to focus on creating albums in Google Photos. And this is all the stuff I just went through, so I'm going to quickly go through here. So one of the things, as Warren has pointed out, the photos are stored in one big file in Photos by the date. And for me, this is a little unsettling because I'm accustomed to creating folders of, when I take photos. But the way Google Photos is doing it is by the date that the photo was created. And so you have to search Google Photos to do this. And so I think in many ways, when you first put up photos, so if you hover, go to your Google Photos. If you hover on the right-hand side, you'll see all these dates showing up. And so you can bring up photos from all these different years that these photos were taken. Let me go back to my. Okay, so I'm back to my photos. So can you see here? If I put my cursor to the right, see all these dates showing up? Do that on yours. Open up your Google Photos or be there, and then hover around and then click on them. So 2011, these are photos from 2011. Okay. So just to show you that that's how Google Photos, every time you upload a photo, it's doing it by the date the photo was taken. Yeah, so if you open up any photo, you see that eye here? This shows you all the metadata that's associated with that photo. So for example, I took this picture yesterday afternoon with what camera and where. If you take it with your mobile device, the GPS will register the location of that photo. And some of the smarter cameras today also have GPS if you turn them on, and so the location of where you took that photo is going to be preserved as part of what Warren talked about, the metadata that's associated with each of your photos.
Okay.
But you do see, and this is something we want to point out, you see in the metadata, there is a little pencil icon here that universally means edit. That you can edit that thing. So I could edit the date here if I clicked on that pencil. However, as we pointed out last time, this change in date is only going to be in Google Photos. So if you downloaded this photo onto your computer, it'll still retain the metadata. And Warren told me on Windows, your photo app on Windows will allow you to make a permanent change on that photo. So if you scan something on your computer and you kind of know the date that that scan was from, you want to change that date on your computer before you put it up in Google Photos. Okay, does that make sense to everybody? Okay, and I found on Apple Photos on your Apple computer has the same function. If you open up a scanned image in your Apple Photos, one of the things you can do is edit the date so that you can put it to the date that it really was taken and then upload it to Google Photos so that it'll be preserved in the right chronological order. Okay. So I'm not going to change it. You can also change the location here too. So these are two things that you can change. You could put a more specific location if you wanted to. Okay, so let me get back to Google Photos. And the next thing I wanted to do was creating albums. Okay, so I'm going to create a photo here. These are some photos I took for doing a drawing class on Wednesday. And so to create this album, what you would do is you hover. So find a place on in your Google Photos where you have some photos that you'd like to put together in an album. And we're going to create an album. I'm just going to show it to you. I have all the thing written down, but I'm just going to demo it for you so we can do it together. Okay. So in the album, if you just choose the photos you want in the album, don't worry about the order at this point because I'm going to show you how to change that. Hover on the photos you want, and the ones you want, just click on it. Oops, sorry, I didn't mean to do that. Hover and then click on the check, and that'll select it. Okay, I created a video as well in that, so I'm going to select that. And I create another video in that, so I'm going to select that. And these are Google Photos now will save all these videos every time you save anything. And so this was my setup. Okay, so I'm just going to save those. Pretty big file because I got several videos in there. Okay, so then after you've done selecting the photos you want in an album, you notice that now that I've selected this, the icons here have changed up here. So I could delete all these if I wanted to. I could create, I could order photo prints of these things. I could share all of these, or what I want to do now is I can add them to an album. So if I click on this plus, here you have a choice of what you could do with the photos that you've selected. And I'm going to select an album. A shared album means just that this is going to be an album that you're going to share with specific people. But I normally would like to just create the album first and then share it later on. Okay. And animation, sometimes it'll take stills and then put them together so that it looks like things are moving. And a collage, as you know, you can put photos in different, stack them on one area. So I'm going to create an album. The first thing it's going to say is, and we saw some of this earlier, you want to create a new album or you want to add it to some other albums that you have. And you can scroll to look for other albums that you might have and add it to that. But here I'm going to say I'm going to create a new album. So do the same for yourself. Come to this point, create a new album. Okay. And here, if you put your cursor, you can add a title. And I'm going to just say drawing class. And I'm just going to make one that's actually useful. Okay, so once you have a title, you can then go up to where the check is. And this is the thing you'll find. Whenever you see a check and you don't know what next to do, whatever you've done with doing something, look for the check. And if you click on the check, that'll be like done. Okay. Okay, so now I have this album. What else can we do with it? Okay, we can edit this album. We've given it a name. If you go up to the corner now, the little three dots, again, universally it means more options. If you open that, you can create a slideshow. If you had still photos, for example, you could create a slideshow of these images. You could download all of these. But what we want to do right now is we want to edit the album. Okay, so if we edit the album, here are some of the functions you have. Here you can add more photos to the album. Here you can actually add text, but this text is pretty limited. If I click on this, it'll put a text here, and I could type in here, you know, something I can write on here. And if you click on that, you can actually move this text. Oops. There. You see how I got the hand? I've got a hand on this. You can then move it to where you want. Oops, supposedly. I wanted to put it up here. Oh, it's not letting me do that. Normally you can, okay, I can put it here. So it'll be under this photo. You see that? Hover until you get the hand. It looks like it's right on the frame of the text box. And then click on it. And then move it to where, when it comes to blue mark, that's where you're going to be depositing it. But it's pretty limited. So this is something you could tell a story of this whole album if you wanted to. Okay, so that's what this TT stands for. This is also for location. You can add a location if you click on it. This last one is sometimes useful. You can set the chronology of the, if you've got lots of photos, you may want to do this. You want to make the oldest first, the newest first, or the something that you just added being on the top of the beginning of the album. Okay, but if none of these satisfy you in your album, you can do the following. I'm going to delete this. Okay, so if I wanted to, I could move this. So I'm selecting this. I put my cursor on it. I press my mouse on it, and I can drag it to this location. Okay, so this is how you can change the order of photos that you have in your album. So try doing that. Find a picture that is out of order right now, or that you can change. Select it with your cursor and drag it to a location that you would like to deposit it in. And that's how you would edit the order of things that are in your album. And one other thing you can do is when you select something, see again, when you select something, what I wanted to do, maybe you can't do it here. Okay, once you've done this and you like the order it's in, you can go back to the check mark up again and click on it, and now your album is done. If you still have things you want to do, again, go back up to the three dots and explore other things you have here. You can set an album cover. In other words, choose one of the photos you have in your album to become the cover for that album. Because otherwise it's just going to show you whatever is in the first photo in your album is going to be the album cover. And sometimes that may not be what you want. Okay, so here. So if I want it, I didn't do it correctly. Okay, so if I chose select album cover, if I choose this one and then say done, if I now go back to my album, I have to go back to my photos here. Now you see, this now becomes the album cover. Okay, so if I go back to this album again, look at some of the other, so play around. Okay, so here's some other options, one of which is also to delete the album. If we open up options, here are some other things you can do that are in options. You can automatically add photos. So you can tell if this album, for example, was for a particular event or something with a person that you wanted to dedicate this album to or something, you can have an automatic thing set up here for people and pets to come into this album automatically when it's uploaded to your photos. I find that a little disturbing to try to do, but I wouldn't do that. And link sharing here, we're gonna talk to sharing, but you're gonna see that the sharing is also available in this location, which I didn't know was going to be possible. This is where you search in Google Photos for any photo, and as Warren said, you can search by a whole bunches of different criteria, sometimes multiple criteria, and it'll find them. Uh, and we went through right now creating albums, so all of the step-by-step is written here in your handout. But I suggest you practice. So select the photos, and then when you have the photos selected, you hit the plus, and then you can create an album. And if it's a new album, or put a title. And whenever you see this edit album, what Betty just pointed out is if you're in this mode, you can do things like move things around, etc. That's something I just learned. Okay, can you all mute yourselves unless you want to ask a question? Thank you. Okay, and we went through some of these controls that are also in the icon for your album. Okay. Okay, now to share. So this icon in Google is kind of universal for sharing. It's like 1 to 2. So if you go to your album and look for that icon in the upper right corner, it'll then bring up this menu. The default menu is for you to invite someone in your contact list that you'll share that album with. But I find the most useful thing is to go get a link from your album. And that's down at the bottom of the window that's going to open, and I'll demo this in a second, that you can copy a link to that album, and you want to share that link. Okay, so you copy the link to your album and then paste it into an email, and you can just send it to a whole bunches of people that you want to send the link to. So let me see where we go to this next. Okay. Okay, so let me go back to my Chrome. Okay, so if I have this album, can you see up here? This is a sharing icon. If you click on that, the default is for you to share it with people in your contact list. If you scroll, oh, you don't need to scroll all the way down. Here it says create link, and that's where if you want to create a link, you click on that, and it will create a link where anyone with the link can see the photos and the people that are in this album. And most of the time, people can also upload to that album for that setting. So if I create a link, now I have a link that I would copy. Okay, and then I would probably go to my Gmail account. Pardon me, but this is another email account. And I would then compose an email to myself. Oh, just for me. Okay, so sending, oops, album to me. And then I would, okay, I would write a message. Here's a link to an album in Google that I'm sharing with you. Okay, and I can do two things. I can hit, on an Apple, it's Command V as in Victor. On a PC, it's Control V as in Victor to paste. Or I can right click my mouse and paste. So two ways of pasting. Okay. Now, in Gmail, what I also do to make this a live link, I highlight that link and go down to this icon where it shows a link. You see that? This will now make it into a live link. So whoever receives this email, all they have to do is click on this and it'll take them to that album. Otherwise, they would have to copy that link, paste it into their browser window, and then go to that link. So I don't know if
Right.
other people have that function in your email account.
I just
Somebody?
did that. I just did that, Joyce, and sent it to
Uh-huh.
myself and opened it up, and
Uh,
the link took me to the photos.
uh-huh.
But can they, or me in this case, where I wanted to download that and save that photo on mine,
Yeah,
can
I
they do
think you
that? I couldn't
can.
see where you could do that.
Look in look in your well, let me do that.
Okay.
Okay. But while I'm here, this is another kind of function. Instead of putting this out, you could also do this. Here's a link. Okay, I can highlight this, go to that link, and then type and just paste in that link there. And if I test this link, here's the album that it's going to go to. Because this is another way that you can also create. And so what would happen here is that now, if I didn't have this, for example, anybody coming receiving this would just have to click on that, and it would go to um, wherever that link is for. So in other words, it's like a context. You can title something and then highlight it and make it into a link by pasting that link into uh, whatever. This doesn't occur only for Gmail. It occurs in things like Word or writing documents. You have that function. As long as you have a place to insert a link, you can highlight some text, insert a link. As long as you have that link in your so-called copy buffer or your, what do you call that? Clipboard. In other words, you've copied it from someplace and then you want to paste it somewhere else. Hey, look up here. Can you see where it says create album? When you have selected albums on your main menu, on the right-hand corner, you have a choice of creating an album and also this arrow, which usually means changing the order of something. If you click on that, you can do it by the last modified album, which is what I have. You can do it from the most recent photo. And if you asked about alphabetizing it, you can do it by the album title. Okay, I think we're done. Any questions about bringing an image up to your computer um, into Google Photos? Just one thing that you do. Putting them into creating an album by selecting various photos, creating an album of those selected photos, and you can modify or edit those, the order in which the photos are in your album. You can, and yeah, so and creating an album cover. There's some things that you can do to the album. That's
These
where we
things
are right now.
change all the time, and when you click on that question mark up there
Up here.
by the settings,
Yeah.
the bottom thing is send feedback. And believe
Oh,
you
okay.
me, they listen to feedback. It may not happen real fast, but by the number of people that want to see a particular change, as that grows and they can work it in, they're
Right.
working it in.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's why this software is forever evolving because, people provide feedback of what they want to do. Okay, so let me move on. So all the sequence of things that we went through sort of is in this handout. So now we're going to go to editing your photos in Google Photos on your computer. Now, this icon here is, again, universal for editing functions. What it represents are sliders, where you could slide a particular tool to change a parameter of that tool. So what we're going to do is we're going to open up a particular photo, one that you'd like to edit. Click on on this icon for editing photos, and then we're going to play with these major functions that Most of the time, I would say about 90% of the time, these are the ones you would probably do. And then when you're done with the edit, you're going to click on done. Okay, so let's do this. Okay. So I have all the, again, step by step here, but let's just do it so that you can always go back to these descriptions of what to do. Okay, so I'm just showing you what we're going to go through next in all these steps. So they're all here in step by step. So let's go do something. Let's go back to our album. And again, this is on your computer. Actually, it doesn't have to be any album. Oh, wait, hold on. I did create an album of things that I wanted to edit. Okay. So here are some photos that I wanted to demonstrate editing functions. I think this is Napa. So if I click on that photo, we already pointed out this is where you have information about the photo. And I took this with my camera. Anyway, I don't need to do that. Okay, so here's the icon for sharing. Okay, I mean, not sharing, for editing. If I click on that, the first one here are some predetermined filters that Google has in there. So this is my original, which is what we're on. Oftentimes, all you need to do is select auto, and this produces some of the changes. It can change the contrast, it can change the lighting, change the color. It's done automatically, and what Google thinks is the best automatic settings for that particular photo. And probably about 85% of the time, this is fine. But as you can see, play around with it. West does this. Palma makes it warmer. Metro does this. Eiffel makes it kind of like an old type picture, and so forth. If you just go through, if any of these are to your liking, you can just say go up here and done. Okay, and you can also undo the edits. Okay, let's go do some additional things. Let me go back to my original. So within this setting, can you see here on the right this little square with rotating arrows? This function allows you to, well, let's just rotate things. If I keep on clicking on this, it'll rotate it 90 degrees, the image. Okay? But if I click on this area here, you see where you have these numbers by degrees? I put my cursor where there's a little triangle arrow, and I can rotate the image. Now, this is sometimes useful when you have a crooked horizon line. So for example, that bridge, if I want to make this picture square so that it's more or less parallel to a grid line, this is what I would be doing it with. Okay, I would change it, or some other part that's straight on the image. Okay. This is especially useful when if you take a picture, like I know Betty and I, oftentimes after we've done a painting, we take a picture of our painting, and if you're not square on the painting, it's a little tilted, or the edges are what do you call that? Oh, what's it? You know, in a trapezoid, instead of being square, you can rotate this so that it's more or less parallel with one of the edges, and then you can come in, and this is cropping. You see all these dots on the corner? I can put my arrow in here and crop this. Okay, and I can also reset it if I want to go back, and so forth. And again, it also has an auto, so it can change things for you specifically. If it finds something really crooked, it can automatically change it for you. And whatever you've done, you can just say done with that change. Okay, so far you have this automatic imaging that you could do. You could rotate, etc. The middle one is probably the most useful. Again, you go to further editing that you can do. And can you see now you can edit the lighting, the color, and pop. Let me just show you what pop does. Pop again is an automatic thing. If you drag the dot, look at, see, can you see what's happening to the image? Do that to your own image. It makes it higher contrast, and so what it does is it pops the image. Again, it's putting a whole bunch of filters, a whole bunch of corrections to your image to make it pop. And you can select what it's doing. Okay. Okay, so notice that for light, there is a little arrow, downward arrow, and you know what that means. There are more functions there that are available to you. You can just use this general thing and move it around and it'll get some things. But if you wanted to be more specific about what you want to change with the lighting, if you click on here, you can change the exposure, you can change the contrast, all separately. You can do shadows, highlights, etc. One that might be useful to you, depending on what you're doing, is vignette. If you click on vignette, can you see what it's doing? It's kind of putting a vignette around your image. And this might be good for like a, I don't know, a portrait or some other things where you want to block out the edges of something. Okay. So this picture could probably get more lighting in there. It was a cloudy day. Yeah. So you play with these, and I just do it by eye. So if I close lights now, it can do the same thing with color. Open up color. Well, again, you can do color all on its own, which does, you know, several things simultaneously. Or you can break it up and look at saturation, which is how deep the color is. You can, or how grayed out the color is. You can change the temperature, warm, cool, and so forth. Tinted. If you had portraits or people in it, you can change the skin tone. If this was a landscape, which this is, but doesn't have very much blue in it, you can change the color of the sky a lot, or any blues that are in there. So again, these are settings that you just want to play with. And like I said, I would say about 90% of the time, these are enough things that you have on your computer in Google Photos to do the kind of editing that you'd like to do on your photos. Other than that, you're going to have to go and bring it in, open up your image in PhotoScan, which isn't available to you on your computer. So I would say, I think for myself, this would be the easiest way to do the kind of editing, because you have a big view of the image and all these controls are easy for you to get to and maneuver. And so when you're done with what you want to edit, the same icons that we looked at, now we're going to have to try to find them. And the mobile device, Google Photos on the mobile device, is where the major changes have been made to Google Photos. So some of the options that we talked about for the computer, we now need to find those options on your mobile device, okay? So again, sharing, instead of that three, you know, the three circles with the lines showing on your mobile device. Let's open up Google Photos on your mobile device. Okay, so some of the last time we looked at this icon for your account, and remember oh, I'm forgetting, I'm pointing at, if you clicked on that, this is where some of those things about backup, photo settings were located. So now we're looking at other icons. Here's one that the first one I was talking about, and this is the sharing icon. And this is new. If you click on that, this will show all the albums and photos that you have shared with others. Okay. So we're just going through and looking at where things are. If I go down to the bottom, you can see if you click on photos, we're already there. If you click on library, this is something new. Click on library and additional menus are going to show up. Here is where, if you had selected a very specific image to be a favorite, all your favorites would be located in this location. So here, for example, this is my diagram for, yeah, some things that I put as favorites are in here. Okay. Archive, we already talked about. Oops, what happened? Sorry, I just moved my phone. It went into landscape mode. Trash. Oh, I have a new one to trash. Okay. And utilities. Just go through and click on each of these things. So under utilities, you have a number of things available. Some of the choices like animation, collage, movie are here. And that's something that you need to know because it's not so obvious that it would be under a library, under library utilities. If you scroll, organizing your library is here. Moving photos to archive are here. Free up space is located here too. And manage photo frames. I believe what managed photo frames are, you can buy these devices that will show your images and stuff. They're kind of like a frame. Apparently, Google Photos can talk to those by this managed photo frames. I don't have one of those devices, so this isn't going to work for me. And on the Mac, PhotoScan is tied in with your mobile device. So later on, we're going to go do photo scans. So hopefully you've downloaded this on your mobile device and you'll be able to scan here. What I found, okay, so if you click on utilities again to go back, you can check to see all the other things. So here is where you would access your albums. So if you click on albums or just scroll, all your albums are located here. So this is something you're going to have to remember, that to find your albums, you need to go to the library. And to find where on your phone you could create other albums, etc., you would have to go to the library. Okay? It's not so straightforward because if you were in photos, you wouldn't see that. Okay, so as usual, explore. Use your finger to explore. Search comes up with, again, all the search. But the main point here is that some of the things that were on Google Photos before in a little panel, like album, search, trash, all those things are now located under library. And you have to hit that in order to get to them. Okay, so what I've done was just go through all the icons that are on your phone that are comparable to the functions that we carried out on your computer. Okay, one of the things that we haven't done yet, right, is how to share albums from your computer. So if you are in albums, if you go back to albums on your computer, I mean on your phone, and you select one of the albums. Okay, so I'm at this page under library. If I select an album, the last one I created, a new set of icons appear. So these are things that you can do to the album. You can add more photos to that album. Looks like you can create another album. Hold on, let me see what that does. No, you can invite. So you can get a link. Okay, so this plus allows you to share the album with specific people in your contact list. Can you see that? Or you can choose on the bottom, again, that icon with the square with an arrow. If you click on that, that brings up different places that you can send this album to, people on the top or different apps on the bottom. Okay, so it looks like you can share either by clicking, once you select an album, by clicking the plus. This will share it with individuals through email. Again, this is a icon for sharing by a link. And if you click on the three dots up here, you can also share. Some of the similar functions are available. Okay, so sharing is something you now can do. So why don't you try sharing either with yourself and see what it does from your phone. It's going to be very similar functions to what you can do with a computer, obviously. And most of the time when you're going to be doing sharing. And as you saw, one of the things that you can do when you're in in those three dots up on the top is you can edit the album like we did before. And Betty says it's easier for her to do it here. I don't think for me it is, like moving things around like that. It's not so easy for me to do that, but you can do it. So again, can you see the same functions that we saw on the computer are there for putting some text in, some ordering it in different order, location, adding more photos are all here. These are the things you can do with your album, at least on my phone, and what things are in your library. So I just have things defined on these slides of what's in each of these icons that are on your mobile device. So the bottom line for this, don't be afraid to click on these icons to figure out what it does and what it contains. And that the one thing you can be sure of, just like death and taxes, these apps will change formats frequently. So just be curious and not afraid to figure out where these functions have been relocated to. And that's how you learn. And so I think in many ways, keeping up with technology is good for your brain. Maybe frustrating, but it's good for your brain because it keeps you limber. So our next step is to go editing photos in Snapseed. This is only available on your mobile devices. So let's go and open up Snapseed on your mobile device. Now I discovered with the Apple, it's kind of a hassle to get a photo into your Snapseed account. The Android phones, somehow Snapseed is one of the choices you have when you edit a photo in Google Photos. Is that correct, Warren? Where did Warren go? Does somebody have an Android phone?
I do.
Yeah. If you open up Snapseed, does it connect up to your Google Photos? Because right
Well,
now,
when I opened it right away, it says tap anywhere to open a photo.
yeah, I have that too. But if I do that, my only choices are from the device, camera, and open the latest image, which are still on my device. In other words, for me to get an image to edit in Snapseed, I need to download that image to my device. So it used to be that there was an icon in iPhone that would say edit in Snapseed from Google Photos, but I looked for it all yesterday and last night. I couldn't find it. I even went online and nobody seems to address that. So I don't know if this is something specific to my phone or not. If I share my phone, this is what I get in Snapseed if I go to open. You all get that, right? When you go to Snapseed?
Yeah.
Yeah, if I click on, well, let me see what this is up here. Tutorial, no, settings. Okay, here it shows you to save to Snapseed. So these are options in Snapseed on an iPhone. Okay, so if I click here, see, these are the choices I have. Open from device, from my camera, or whatever was open at last. And these are only images that are on my camera, on my phone.
Yeah, that's what mine is too.
Okay, yeah. So when you say open from device, it's only going to look at these devices. Camera, obviously, it takes from whatever photo you've taken. Go back. So for Apple users, this is what you're going to have to do. You have to go back to your Google Photos and say, I want to bring this image in to edit. Oh, actually, I need to do this. Photos to edit. I'm going to need to bring these images to edit. Here's what I've done. I'm back in Google Photos on my phone. I've selected an album, and this icon up on the top, once I've selected things, well, let me check to make sure. Okay. If that icon, this icon here, so I selected images on this one album because I set it aside for playing with edit. And I click on this. One of the choices is to save to device. Can you see that?
Uh-huh.
So if I do that, it'll now download the images that are in Google Photos onto my device. Okay. Now, if I go back to the home page and I select Snapseed, and then I go to plus, open, and I say open from device. If you click on the image, down here in the bottom, looks opens up like in Google Photos, filters. Okay, so these are like pop, accentuate. So these are like global type changes that are producing using several different settings to change your image. Can you see that? So follow me, bring in an image onto your photo, and tools is where I wanted to show you. You see all of these tools that are available. Tune image is the one that's going to be very similar to what we were doing earlier, the same kind of icon. And this is what most of the time you would be doing. So if you click on tune image, like here, brightness is showing up first. And if you put your finger up near where the brightness is, you can you see I can change, you see that blue line? I can change the amount of brightness that I put onto my image. And so if I select that, can you see this icon here? This shows you, compares you to what you had originally and what you have now. So if I click on that, or hold it, this is what I had before, this is what I have now. What I had before, what I have now. Okay, so if you tap on your finger again, tap on your photo again, you can change to another menu item. Boy, this is really slow. Oh, got to go back to this and choose some other function like contrast or um, ambience. So again, you choose one of those functions in modifying your image, and you move your finger back and forth to get the image change that you want to vary the parameter of that particular function. And if you want to see what it looked like before and now, you just hit that icon that has a half of this icon here.
That's
You
cool.
can go
Joyce,
back and forth.
you're in
Yeah.
Snapchat right now?
No, I'm in Snapseed.
Snapseed, okay.
Yeah, Snapseed. You were supposed to have downloaded that on your
Okay.
for today. Okay. So this is one of the tools that is down on the bottom. And again, if you like what you see, you select that check on the bottom here. If you are satisfied with the change that you made, you would select that check, and you can then choose to export it, share it, save a copy. And export is where it creates a copy with permanent changes to that image. So if you export this, because it's on your phone and your phone is set up to back up and sync with Google Photos, this new copy would go back up to your Google Photos as a changed image from what you had originally. Okay. So one other function I wanted to show, again, some of the same things we did on the computer. Crop is there, rotate is there. One of the interesting ones is healing. This is the one you use for getting rid of wrinkles on people's faces. But in this case, you can also get rid of rubbish. See that kind of annoying branch is right there? If I amplify this with the healing tool, if I just touch it, I hope it works, it can get rid of that branch. You see that? So this can be done to get rid of rubbish in a picture that you don't want. And what it's doing is it's mixing the pixel up with the pixels that are surrounding it, surround that image. And normally you need to make it bigger so that you don't see a big area being altered. And it's probably better done on an iPad than on my phone. And again, you can just save it in that form, export it, etc. Now, if I saved it, there was another function where you could, and if you look up here, you can always revert back to the original.
How do you get it up into Google Photos?
Well, I would export it and choose create a copy with permanent changes. And because I'm doing it on my iPhone and Google Photos is synced to backup and copy, eventually this will go into my Google Photos. So let's check. If I go back to Google Photos, go to Photos. Oh, you see that? Do you see this circle with an arrow around it on my photo? That means
Yes.
something is still being uploaded.
Yeah. Still
Okay?
working.
Yeah. So if I click on that, backup complete. Oh, I have 25 items to delete from this device. Um, if I click on that, it'll get rid of whatever is on my photo. But let's check. That means somehow I've been playing around so much on this thing that new photos have been put onto my device here. Yeah. So here's the picture I just modified without that branch. Okay, so it's been added to Google Photos, the one I just added back from Snapseed, and in the edited form. Does everybody see that? When I exported it from Snapseed, I chose this last thing, create a copy with permanent changes. It first saved it onto my phone in this new version, and because Google Photos is automatically backing up whatever is on my phone, that copy went up to my Google Photos account.
Did it save it back to the album?
I don't think so. I think it saved it because I couldn't find it on my photos. It saved it to the time that I took that photo. And I had to search for it.
And your original then is not there.
No, my original is still there because I didn't, I didn't modify it here. I mean, I modified it, but I saved a copy of it. You see it? It says export creates a copy with permanent images or changes.
Oh,
Okay. So there, like Warren was talking about, there are different ways of saving. In this case, because we're still on an Apple phone here, save the changes you can undo iOS with permission to modify the photo. Save a copy creates a copy with changes you can undo. But here, I created by exporting, I created a copy with permanent changes that I cannot undo. So if I chose this middle one, it would create a copy of that image that will be saved back to Google Photos and still be editable. In other words, that offending branch would still be, I would still be able to see it in the original photo. And as I said, for Snapseed, the integration with Android is a lot better than it is with iOS. I also wanted to point out to you, all of you as OLLI members, Linked Learning is a resource that you have as an OLLI member. So if you go to the OLLI website, and for you, you go in as students, the student portal. I have to go in as faculty staff because I'm in a, if you go to your portal account and you look on the left-hand side, these are choices of apps that are available to you as an OLLI member. So I went to the OLLI website. Well, not the OLLI. I went to the Cal State Fullerton website. I logged in to, you would choose student unless you're emeritus. You choose student and log into your campus account. This is your portal account. One of the choices you have here is Linked Learning. And Linked Learning is a whole bunch of tutorials that video tutorials that are available to you. And I think I have in here, if you search for like Snapseed, so here's one that I was suggesting you use. It's in your handout, Snapseed for Google Photos integration. There are all of these video tutorials that deal with Snapseed. And I would look for the most recent one and try to find them. Some of these have not been updated. As you know, Google Photos just got updated in July 2020. So, but the point is, there is a huge amount of resources available to you for learning anything, and especially it's in technology. So I just wanted you to be aware of that, uh, that you have this as a possibility for you to explore. So I didn't do the brush tool, but the brush tool allows you to only choose a certain area for you to modify, right? Okay, so one more thing. Again, I got all these handouts for going through a Snapseed and just playing with them. So healing. Oh, text. I got to show you how to do text. Okay, let's go back to Snapseed. So if you click on that image again, tool comes up with tools and look for text. Oh, here it is, the T, text. You see that? Click on text. And now it allows you to choose different kind of text formats. I don't know what L5, L6 means. I don't know what these are. Oh, you got to, again, choose what they are. L1. Oh, so each one changes the kind of text that's in there. L1, L2. Does everybody see that? So you just have to go through and choose something that is appropriate. So if you then double tap, you can, oh, sorry, double tap, click on the text. Then your keyboard shows up and you'll, you can type in whatever you want, sunset in or something like, I don't know. I'm just putting in whatever I can and just say, okay. And your text will be there. And you can move that text by putting your finger on the text. And can you see that? Just move it around. You can also make it smaller and bigger by squeezing and expanding. Okay. And then if you like what you've done, then you hit the check button, check down on the bottom, and it'll save it.
Can you
And on
put
the
that,
bottom, go ahead.
can you do that underneath the picture and not have it on the picture?
I don't think so. I tried just now and it won't go there.
Okay.
Yeah. So down on the bottom are some other options. I think you can change the color of the text. So I could make it gray. Can make it purple, blue. Okay. And this other icon in the middle can change the transparency or opacity. So if you don't want it so obvious, you can do, you can make it fade away. Let's see what invert does. Oh, you don't want to do that. And this other one is, okay. And so this icon with the book gives you all the different choices. So after you've written down something, you can just choose the thing. Okay, and just go back. Okay, so does everybody see what you can do with text and where it is and how to handle it? And all the options you have down on the bottom. Okay, and you can just click on save. And again, with export, the same choices. I can create it with all the different variations. This time I'm going to save it as a copy. So all the changes that are in there, can you see, are being saved. So first it goes into my Apple Photos, and then it'll go up into my Google Photos on my iPhone. Okay. So one last thing that I wanted to make sure I covered here. So here are some tutorials that I have on Snapseed. We touched just a few things that are available in Snapseed. Okay, photo scan, this can be quickly shown to you, allows you to rapidly create a scan of photos, documents, etc. So I'm going to demo that for you, and you can do the same. So let's open up photo scan now, and you'll get this. And photo scan, I'd like to access your photos. I'll just say, okay, select. Okay, and I'm going to bring in as an example. You would put your camera, you click on this big button here, and then it's going to bring up 4 dots. Okay, and what you want to do is move it to 1 dot. It'll take another picture. It'll tell you to move to the next dot. Can you see that? Move to the next dot. And then I guess he figures you know. Then it's got an image there. And if you now click on the image that it took, you can see what it saved. However, you can rotate it. You can do adjust corners, and I wanted to demonstrate that. You can adjust the corners because, as you can see, it didn't show all of the parts that you may like. And so if you really want all of the parts that you like, I would make it big. Well, I'm going to change this corner up on the top. If you bring that up, what you'll see is a crosshairs, and that crosshair will show you, oops, there. I'm going to put that crosshair right at the edge of the actual photo. Can you see that white rim and then a part of the photo? If I let go, it's now right at the corner of that photo and the crosshair. So I'm going to now change the one down in the bottom here. Or maybe let me change this one here so you'll see what I mean by the crosshairs. It's going to give you an amplified view of this border, and you want to, with the crosshairs. So if I put this down here, can you see now? I want to put there, right there, if I put it, I'm now at the border of that photo. Can you see that?
Mhm.
To the left of the plus.
Yes.
If I let go, now it'll be there. And then you do the same thing for all the others. Find the edge of that photo. Oh, this one I didn't take a good one here.
We didn't get the edge.
Yeah, I didn't get the edge, that one. Yeah.
That's fine.
Well, actually what it did was it got something, and this is pretty straight, so it's probably okay. This side's not that straight. Okay, I didn't do this corner. So I'll go put my crosshair that way. Okay, and then you just say done, and now you have an image. Unfortunately, it's showing the holders that are on the side because they're still there. I should have taken it out of the photo. This didn't do a good job of getting rid of the glare. It actually put its own glare on there. So I would probably do it again to make sure that I don't have this. Somehow my phone,
You don't get that.
yeah, my phone put on a light when it was taking this photo. So you may want to do this under brighter light than what I was doing it in. Normally, if you did this with a photo under glass or even under plastic, it does away with the glare. Because what it's doing is it's averaging 4 images to take the final one. And this is pretty high resolution. So if you did a document, you'll see that you can actually read that document easily. This video tutorial kind of shows you what you can do with it too. And actually, a lot of people, this is tedious, but you can use this very cheap, right? It's on your phone to create backups of a lot of your old family precious photos that you have, and then edit them, renumber them before. I guess you're gonna have to download it to your computer and then change the date on your computer if you want it to be a permanent edit, or just do it in Google Photos and save it so that it's at the correct date. The best thing to do is just keep on playing with this stuff, and you'll get to understand how to use it. Like anything, like any skill, the more you use it, the better you get using it.